Welcome, noble sir.
He greets, smirking behind the gray of his whiskers.
Come to share a hand with an old fool.
I'm game if you are, friend. The cards are dealt and a few hands play. Some you win, others you lose. All the while you note the gambler giving you just enough of an incentive to keep playing, just enough of a promise of rewards to entice you. Then suddenly your fortunes turn, and every hand seems to be against you. Finally the last coin vanishes from your pouch, although you are not surprised.
Oh, hard luck, noble sir.
The rat-faced man sneers.
Seems like fortune favors me today.
One more hand, you insist. Perhaps I can wager this. You produce a small trinket, a metallic oval, and roll it over the table. The Easter egg stops right by the pile of coins.
That is a valuable prize indeed.
He stammers.
I fear I have nothing I could wager to match such a trinket.
Oh, I think there is something you could offer. You lean forward, eyes glinting like steel. You could tell me about the night trade. The eggs. The missing children. Hello and welcome to a Kingdoms Forlorn rambling video. I guess I'm not really sure what to call this. We'll see what I title it. But anyways, hopefully you enjoyed that little intro. I figured might be a little bit of a fun thing to just record, sort of a little thematic, dramatic intro using one of the little story passages they have from the Kingdoms Forlorn update blog posts. And that's one of the reasons why I'm attracted to Kingdoms Forlorn, is the world and some of the stories that they might tell. Especially when the game does draw comparisons to games like Dark Souls, which I'm super into. You know, I actually wasn't super into the way Dark Souls told their stories, but after beating Dark Souls 3 recently, I've definitely fallen in love with how they do the world building and how piecemeal the story is, and sort of it's up to interpretation a lot of the time. And so I sort of wanted to just talk about why I'm going to be back in Kingdoms Forlorn and sort of what my thoughts are on the Kickstarter. So buckle up, grab a coffee, and hopefully you can just sit back, listen. You don't even have to watch the video if you don't want to. Just have this on the background. Maybe it'll be like a little mini podcast, and I won't try to do it too long. I'm sure there's going to be a lot of people just talking that are probably more experienced with board games and Kickstarters in general than I am, but hopefully my audio quality makes up for that. Anyways, so if you don't know what Kingdoms Forlorn is a solo operative dungeon delver for 1 to 4 players with a focus on loot. I already like that last part because I'm a huge loot whore in video games. Kingdoms Forlorn focus on personal stories and short delves into the titular kingdoms. Into the Unknown, which are the developers, will build upon their co-op system, given advantages to the next player into turn order, bringing a greater sense of working together. You will explore forgotten kingdoms, fight battles with giant monsters or bands of minions, loot, craft, duel, and possibly earn renown and fulfill your heart's desire. Kingdoms Forlorn will explore forgotten medieval kingdoms, rediscovered, knights noble and vile and errant, venture forth to seek power, treasures of redemption, and to carve their own legends. The game pulls inspirations from dark fantasy titles like Dark Souls, Diablo, and Game of Thrones. 2 of those I really love. I personally never have seen Game of Thrones. But Dark Souls and Diablo, I'm huge fan of, and there's a lot of words in there that I'm just all into. And it's not hard to please me when it comes to games. So, yeah, I am very curious to see how this is gonna go. I think it's gonna be just as, if not more successful than Aeon Trespass Odyssey, mainly for the fact, just thematically, I think a lot of people will be able to attach to this more than Aeon Trespass Odyssey, which is more Greek god themed. And I love the art, which I just say right off the bat, and that's one of the big things that drew me as well. Is like, I know it's probably a bad thing to do, but I do judge books by their cover. And they have some extremely good art in these blog posts that they had leading up to sort of their latest blog post, which is sort of revealing the Kickstarter date. They're going to be opening up the Kickstarter on February 15th. So I'm very excited, and you can also go there just to subscribe so you can be notified when it gets into play right away. But yeah, I'm very, very excited for this. I don't kickstart a lot of games, and also I'm not a huge, like, big variety board gamer. You know, I definitely stick to sort of what I like and what my group of friends like, because I'm the one who brings board games to my group of friends, and they are sort of more along the lines, you know, Kingdom Death Monster is sort of the foundation to what a lot of my friends and I play. And it's, you know, the first game that I fell in love with, you know, from Kickstarter. And I just love that whole epic, you know, storytelling journey that Kingdom Death Monster can take you on. You know, I put over, you know, probably almost 200 hours into Kingdom Death Monster, and I still have not even gotten close to beating it. And I've only really, with my friends and I've only really gotten to the end once. But we still enjoy it every single time, even if we only get like 5 to 10 lantern years and we have to restart. Like, we just love over and over the emergent stories that can come from Kingdom Death Monster. And that's one of the big reasons why I'm looking forward to Aeon's Trespass Odyssey and also Kingdoms Forlorn, because Kingdoms Forlorn, it's seeming like they are going to be having a lot more emphasis on the story, and at least the individual story, and there's going to be more ways to shape your character through those stories rather than just having like your arm ripped off in Kingdom Death Monster, and that's sort of where your story goes. So now I am a little bit not hesitant, but there are some things that I'm worried about. Obviously, this is like an extremely ambitious project, and the fact that they had this being developed, like, they started developing it before Aeon Trespass Odyssey, it sounds like. Either that or they've been developing it alongside Aeon Trespass Odyssey. And what I'm sort of worried about is I am a little bit worried that they've used Aeon Trespass Odyssey to sort of almost test a lot of the mechanics that they would rather use in Kingdoms Forlorn, and that, you know, Aeon Trespass Odyssey will be a lot messier than it should be because of that. Now, not saying that's what they did. I have no clue how much, you know, focus they went into things, you know, on per project. But, you know, they did mention that they did start working on Kingdoms Forlorn, you know, 2 years, for more than 2 years, you know, even before Aeon Trespass Odyssey came out. So that is a little bit slight worry. They even do reference, you know, their tactical, you know, inverted combat paradigm, the big buzzword they had for Aeon Trespass Odyssey. They even mentioned that it's the 2.0 in Kingdoms Forlorn. So I'm guessing it's like a more refined version potentially. But so fingers crossed Aeon Trespass Odyssey is, you know, not super clunky. But I'm, you know, both projects are extremely ambitious. That being said, I did play the tabletop simulator demo for Aeon Trespass Odyssey, the battle system, and I had a lot of fun with it. There's a lot of stuff that I like, and, you know, as much as I hate the buzzwords like inverted combat paradigm, you know, it is a lot of fun, and it does differ itself from something like Kingdom Death Monster. And luckily, I do like that they aren't just slapping on the Aeon Trespass Odyssey mechanics onto sort of this medieval dark fantasy theme. It does seem like there's a lot more different from Kingdoms Forlorn than Aeon Trespass Odyssey that's separating it. I do like as well that they are focusing on the solo operative aspect. Since I am starting to do more like board game content and, you know, doing more like solo board game content, it is nice that they are going to be, you know, putting in mechanics and gameplay that is going to help solo players, because I don't believe Aeon Trespass Odyssey is going to have that. I think they are sort of mostly focusing on the cooperative aspect for that game, and I think it's going to be sort of a Kingdom Death Monster situation where you have a game that can be played solo, but there's just a ton of things to manage, and it's a lot messier if you play it solo. So I do like that. Obviously, I do like the aspect of the Dungeon Delver. That's another big thing that they're separating from Aeon Trespass Odyssey, where Aeon Trespass Odyssey is more of the focus on the boss battler. This is going to be more of a hybrid where you are going to have battles with minions, but also there are going to be those really, really fun, interesting bosses to fight with some incredible looking minis, I have to say. I do love I love the art. Like, the art style and the design is super, super fantastic. And I think some of the comments that I've seen so far have been, oh, I don't like how silly it is. Oh, I would back it if, you know, if their moves were more serious. And I'm like, man, this is my jam. This is weird. This is interesting. It's different. Like, the whole dark fantasy serious thing has been done so many times over. And even a game like Dark Souls, where it is a more serious theme and stuff like that, you do have, Onion Night and stuff like that, where there are these fun like memes and, funny takes on things. I'm pretty sure Egg Night in this game is a direct nod to Onion Night from Dark Souls. And those kinds of references are great. I think that is going to even just help in terms of pulling more people into this style of game, making those comparisons. Because, I think a lot of people will be able to attach themselves more to this theme than something like Aeon Trespass Odyssey, which is more of the Greek theme. I think this is a little bit more broad and a little bit more inclusive to those people who do play video games or watch movies or watch shows like Game of Thrones. But yeah, like the art on the cards especially, I really, really liked. I do like sort of the goofiness of the cards because it definitely reminds me of like Monty Python and like the cartoony animations they had in that movie. It's definitely reminiscent of that, and I think that's a perfect thing to go alongside the seriousness of like being like having your arms ripped off by this Egg Knight or something like that. So it seems like they're using a lot of the same mechanics from Aeon Trespass Odyssey, but as long as Aeon Trespass Odyssey is still like the mechanics are still sound, I'm not going to be as upset, even if they are using it as more of a test for Kingdoms Forlorn. Because if anything, that'll just be even better. Looking forward to Kingdoms Forlorn because it'll just be a more refined version of a lot of mechanics from Aeon Trespass Odyssey. But from what I've seen, Aeon Trespass Odyssey is looking at the rule book, I think it is going to be a little bit messy. But I am someone who's pretty used to messy rules a lot of the time, and my group has no problem home ruling a lot of stuff. So I just hope it's not too painful to read through. Additionally, watching Quackalope's gameplay video, I am very, very interested to learn more about sort of the individual stories aspect. Having, especially the fact that I think Jesse mentioned that you could even potentially have like people play on their own or something and still bring their character into your story type of thing. I do like how there's going to be a little bit more of an individual aspect. That's one thing that I was sort of missing from Kingdom Death Monster was that the game lacked a little bit of that individuality, because you obviously not that it's wrong, because it was more that your settlement survivors are a resource, right? I do like how they are trying to focus more on the story here and sort of building and fleshing out your character story. And I also do like how, even though you are going to be able to interact with other people's stories potentially or indirectly, that it's still going to be a mainly cooperative experience. And that'll be nice. But see, look at this. Man, the art, I just love the weirdness. The weirdness is great. I think anyone who doesn't like this stuff is a butthead, and their opinion is invalidated. Don't get mad. That is a joke. If it's not for you, I totally understand. But it is totally for me. It is totally my jam. I do like how they have the Flower Knight here, which I'm wondering if that's a direct nod to Kingdom Death Monster. But yeah, the dungeon delving aspect. Now, I am going to have to rewatch Quackalope's gameplay video because obviously it's a prototype. Obviously it was a very, very small slice of the game. But there was a lot that I felt was lacking, the variety of items. It seems like with a game that is supposed to be emphasis on loot, from the item cards that I saw, it seems like there wasn't that ton of a variety, but I'm guessing that was obviously just for that specific section of the game, which it seemed like it was an early encounter. So I'll give him a pass on that. But I do hope there is a good, healthy variety. I hope it's not just slight variations on traditional medieval weapons and stuff like that. I do hope there's some really, really weird things, and it seems like there is enough fantasy in the game to make that happen, enough dark fantasy. It seems like obviously they're not making it super, super low fantasy, which I like, because I personally like the weirdness. And this was another thing. I saw people had problems with the monkeys. People said no monkeys in my game. And I think that's crazy. I think it's super, super cool. Again, this is just all adding to the world building, and some of the story snippets they have in here is just super, super cool. And that's why I wanted to do that little dramatic opening, was like to share some of that intrigue and like, you know, where did the missing children go, and like what is this egg like little piece of currency that this you know, gambler is, you know, all up in arms about. And I'm looking forward to exploring the stories. You know, I am mainly a gameplay focused mechanics person first, but I do appreciate some extremely weird and cool stories and world building. You know, I'm a tabletop role-playing person at heart, so, you know, I love just diving into worlds and getting lost in them. It's one of the reasons why I do like getting a lot of tabletop role-playing games, even if I don't end up playing them. Like, I have Vaesen, which is a super, super interesting Nordic horror, like mystery tabletop role-playing game. I haven't played it yet, but just the art and the world is super, super cool to look through the book. So yeah, also like, look at this, roguelike mechanics. Now that I'm a little bit cautious of. I'm a little bit worried about roguelike mechanics. I love roguelites and roguelikes. It's one of my favorite genres of video games. However, in a grand scale game like this, where they are touting, you know, couple, you know, potentially hundreds of hours of content, it's going to be tough to like replay the game. However, I guess it depends on what the end state is. Like if it is fairly easy to like lose a playthrough or lose a run and you have to start over, I guess that makes more sense. But if you know, I'm not one to replay games a lot, you know, once I get to the actual end of the game. So I'm interested. Again, a lot of the stuff, it just seems like they're adding so many features and so many things on the game that it almost feels too ambitious. Like, I thought Aeon Trespass Odyssey was ambitious, but this is like a step above that. Because, you know, again, they aren't just focusing on the boss battler aspect. They are focusing on like actual dungeon delving and also the narrative story branching and you know, actual fighting, you know, full battles with minions. So it's going to be a lot. But I'm very, very much looking forward to this. I will 100% be backing it, I feel like. And depending on what they have for like the different stages, because I only backed the core pledge for Aeon Trespass Odyssey. I didn't do the full, you know, wave 5, you know, wave 1 to 5 or whatever. Just because it's too expensive mainly, but also like it's one of those situations where I didn't want to get expansions for Kingdom Death Monster until I had you know, at least like 50 to 100 hours in the game. Because, you know, there's just so much content where it's like, if I do get a bunch of the expansions and stuff like that, or a lot of the advanced content, it's just going to be too much. And I'm already probably not going to get anywhere near finishing Aeon Trespass Odyssey or Kingdoms Forlorn. But I will very, very much look forward to having them on my shelf. So yeah, that's sort of my general thoughts about the Kickstarter, about Kingdoms Forlorn. I'm not very, very difficult to please, so I think this game is going to be extremely fun. I wish I was a more I wish I was a larger board game content creator, because man, getting my hands on that prototype would be extremely, extremely cool. Just to sort of be able to dive in a little more than sort of just watching other content creators' videos, because especially looking through like even just the prototype rulebook, that would definitely be interesting to read. But I highly recommend looking back through Into the Unknown's blog posts about this. Read some of the story snippets they have, and like read some of the mechanical talk they have. Ignore a lot of the buzzwords. Again, they do throw quite a few buzzwords in the blog posts, but that's just marketing, to be honest. So I don't put it past them. I do prefer the comparisons they make. You know, when they talk about having like actual, you know, when they talk about like the actual mechanics and talking about, hey, this is like Dark Souls or whatever, like that speaks more to me than, you know, inverted combat paradigm or whatever. So yeah, that's gonna be it. I wish them the best I wish Into the Unknown the best on their Kickstarter launch. I will be looking to put this video up before the Kickstarter goes live. So yeah, if you enjoy these sort of little rambles, if you know it piqued your interest about the game or whatever, or if you just want to let me know if you're backing it as well, leave a comment, leave a like, do the old YouTube stuff. I hate saying it, but you know, I'm pretty sure it works. That's why people do say it. So yeah, give the channel a subscription. I will be getting some more board game content out there. I will be looking forward to doing another Townsfolk Tussle run down the road. And I will be doing also a my collection video, just sort of going over the board games I have in my collection so far, and maybe get some opinions on maybe if you want to see me play some of them solo or not. So yeah, that's going to do it for me. Read the blog posts, make your own decision. I'm very much a gusher for games that I love. Obviously, I don't have it in my hand, so I can't talk about what's bad about this game. But everything about it speaks miles to me, and it so far from what I see, it's doing nothing wrong. It's doing every single thing that I want in a game, and I'll be looking forward to backing it. So until then, thank you so much for watching, and I will see you in the next one.